I don't know what day it is today. August 20 something. I'm losing track. Well, I hate cold weather and I can't really work outside when it's cold. My hands get all jacked up, fingers and stuff. So I figured I was going to do all my modifications at the end of the season for my martin colony instead of in the spring scrambling at the last moment. So I've made videos about these martin houses before. With these, I am really happy with how they're designed. I don't have to do much with them as far as modifications and stuff, but these houses were custom built by a friend of mine who has since passed, and I acquired these houses from my friend's widow. And one of the things that I've kind of learned now, this will be my second, I'll be going on my third season with these. So one of the things that I have learned is the compartments are very big. They're a foot deep and I think 8 inches wide. So one of the things I've learned is that, let's see if you could notice, the holes are staggered. Well, I should start like this. Right? Let's do this. These are the entrances. Now I do have them blocked off, mind you. And if you notice, the holes are staggered. These are my own version of a Troyer tunnel. I've made other videos about that. These work fine. But if you notice that they're staggered, right, left, right, left, right, left. So what I decided to do this year, and it's just from paying attention to how the birds nest, I decided to make a barrier between the nesting compartment and the entrance hole, staggered just the same way. And one of the things that I've learned was that the martins will put their nest in the opposite corner furthest from the hole. So if the entrance hole is here, they will build a nest in the corner. You know, their instinct is to be as far away from any type of predator as possible, so they'll put their nest. So if you have a left-facing hole, the nest will be to the right. If it's a left-facing hole, or vice versa, you know what I mean. So when I made these inserts, these nest inserts, I made them in the opposite of the holes. You see that the entrance hole is to the left, nest is to the right. And the other thing I've done, now I did this year for the first time, the artificial nests. I used those last year. They were too thick. The thing I noticed this year was a lot of the birds, they nested here instead of in the back. They wouldn't, not all of them, but a lot of them wouldn't go in the back. So what I did, let me pull one of these things out. My wife hates it when I do this, but the only way I can cut these things is with a hot knife, and I got a knife specific. So what I did is I just heated a knife up on the stove, red hot, and just cut this thing in half. So I got these things cut in half. And if you could see, there they all are. They're half the size what they used to be. So they don't have to go up so high now. Now I've had plenty of success in the past with artificial nests. These are very reusable. So that is what I'm doing. So I'm just making sure that all of these things, and we'll see what the results are from next year. You know, like this compartment in particular, I had a female make a nest here. Even though she could have gone in the back, I didn't have this room divider here. But she made a nest here. She ended up dying in cold weather right on that nest right there. It was just the dumbest thing. And one of the things I've learned, they tend to be the younger birds. So the older birds have better instincts. And if you've noticed, what I do is I made these holes, I think 3 inches. This is 3 inches hole. So they got plenty of space to even perch on here and to go back in there. So yeah, and see, I can still pull the nest trays out. So I'm getting everything ready for next year. All I have to do is uncap everything, pre-nest them, and be ready to go next year. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm excited about next year just to see. I had a lot more occupancy, obviously, this year in these houses. Next year we'll see what happens. It was a good year per se, but it was a bad year too. I lost at least 24 nestlings. This house got hit hard by owls. I had an owl that was coming here. And I started to realize it was too late. Now, they can't get the martins out of this house. What they try to do is scare them out, try to flush them out. And by having this room divider in here, it's an added layer of protection in the psychological mind of the bird. I know that may not make sense to you, but the deeper the compartment and the more barriers there are between a predator and the prey, the idea is they will feel more secure behind this barrier. So let's say you got a pair of martins in here, the male and female, and let's just say they're sitting on eggs. And an owl comes and he's hanging up here and he's banging and he's flushing, he's here, he's boom, boom, boom. I don't seem to lose them out of the gourd for some reason, but man, when they get on when the owls get on the houses, they beat the hell out of the houses. And this was the house that I had more problems as far as young in this house than all the other houses. And I've been doing this for a long time. And I know I've had owls visit, but they've never decimated my colony. They've never pulled doors off. I very rarely found the remains of a martin. I always found the feathers from an owl that was beaten around. So this is my solution to just as part of my owl protection. And it's also part of, for the young nesting birds, I think it'll work even better. So I'm excited about next year. We'll see what happens. And I got 2 houses like this, and I've been busy taking care of this. And to be honest with you, I didn't spend any money outside of the screws. I collect materials. When I see materials laying roads, in a garbage can or something, building materials, I think this is some type of plastic. I don't know what kind it is. I had it up in my attic. I was just looking around, what can I use? And there we go. So it didn't cost me anything. I try to be very cost effective as much as possible. So anyway, I hope that that works. You know what? I'll show you another thing that I've done. This year we had some torrential freaking downpours, man, like rain I haven't seen in 20 years. And I had birds that were near fledging, and what happened is the gourds got wet. And I had birds jumping. I had to go in there and change every single nest, 54 gourds. I had to change everything. Most of the gourds that got wet were gourds that were facing west. So like that one got drenched. But one of the things that I've learned is there's a couple things I can do to prevent, kind of limit the amount of rain. Number one is a rain guard. Water's going to come down on this thing, go down here, and go right into the gourd. This will prevent that. So I got them on all of my, and it's just a hole saw, some plastic. I think that was a yellow plastic bucket. And then I just put some construction adhesive around it. And then the other thing that I did here, I got from a guy on YouTube. And it's not very pretty, but it does work. You see I take I think that's 1.5 inch maybe. I could have used 1 inch hole saw. And basically that works as a water barrier. I probably should clean that up a little bit as far as, but I drill into that. Those holes were already there, and that indentation from the hole saw around it prevents the water from wicking up into the nest material. I did that to every single gourd. Every gourd. And if you noticed here, I got rubber here to actually help prevent more water from getting in there. So, yeah. This really helps keep the gourds dry. Really, really does. The only thing I need to add to these is probably a vented cap. And I think that's the next thing I'll do with a bunch of these. I gotta vent the caps because these things can be, they sometimes need better ventilation, particularly if they get wet. So anyway, I hope that works for you guys. And you know, there's all my Martin houses. There's my SNS controller back there by the beehives. If you see that. So, and then you can see that they are progressing on this road back here. On the plus side, I understand that there is going to probably be a big wall up there, which is fantastic, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this whole right away into a bluebird trail. And I already got plans for that. I'll have to show a video when that happens. So I'm actually kind of, you know, the old idea is if life gives you lemons, try to make lemonade. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, till next time.